The number one reason to try and get people to talk about wills comfortably is because you don't want your executors and beneficiaries to be left with a mess. I just call that rude.
Really, if you care about your children and you love your children, and we know that you do, then you don't want the conflict after you die.
Remove that conflict, give them more peace of mind, and they can grieve accordingly and mourn the loss, as opposed to then just creating conflict during a grieving time.
Divorce can be emotionally and financially overwhelming. That's why I'm teaming up with Sunny Wishart, president and founder of A La Carte Financial and a certified financial planner. We will show you how to understand all things money without feeling ashamed, overwhelmed, embarrassed. You will learn more, ask questions. No question is a dumb question. Welcome to Money with Sunny. Let's get into it.
Today, we're going to talk to you about wills and estate planning. And Sunny and I have had a conversation about this. She works with clients on a regular basis about the importance of creating a will or updating your will and preparing your estate planning. So, Sunny, how important is this topic?
This one is so important that I make it like even if we're just having a quick 1 hour call, if we're focusing solely on cash flow, I'm going to ask you about your wills and what state they're in. It's number one focus. It's a priority. It has to be done or updated even, because that's another beast, having an outdated will. So I think this is a really great topic to be talking about for everybody across the board.
Mm-hmm. So you're having a conversation with someone who's transitioning through separation and divorce, and their will is non-existent or outdated. What are kind of the three things that are most important to talk about, consider, be aware of, and do?
Yeah, it was one, when you're in transition, there's a few things to iron out first, such as, because wills and things like beneficiary designations, those are kind of they go hand in hand. Having your life insurance and investments with the proper beneficiaries updated, couple with the will, kind of solidifies your wishes. I call it wills and wishes.
Okay.
So, but like the number one reason to try and get people to talk about wills comfortably, I know we all feel kind of icky talking about dying. I don't, but I talk about it multiple times throughout the course of the financial planning process. So I get kind of desensitized to it. But it is an uncomfortable conversation. So the number one reason you want to do it is because you don't want your executors and beneficiaries to be left with a mess. I just call that rude. So you don't want to be rude to your family members and leaving it up to them to figure out your stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the number one reason is that you don't want to leave people in a bind and not sure about what to do with your assets and what your wishes are, and what happens if you don't have a will.
So you would pass away what they call intestate. So you have no will, and you're just leaving it up to whatever your jurisdiction is, so whatever province you're in, for them to decide. And they of course have ways of deciding depending on the assets, depending on the precedences set. And it can too leave it up to, and I see this, and it's such a shame, but it happens, and you're gone. So you don't see it happening and you don't think it's going to happen. But where your beneficiaries, let's say your kids, we always talk about oldest kid, middle kid, younger kid, and how we perceive things. Well, the oldest kid would say, well, I thought mom wanted to do this. I thought she wanted to be cremated. And then youngest kid goes, no, she wanted to be buried in the cemetery with the family. And then You've left it up to them to figure out what to do with you. And that's,
And
I
it
think
causes
it's
unnecessary conflict with your children.
exactly.
Yeah, so really, if you care about your children and you love your children, and we know that you do, then you don't want the conflict after you die. You want you want them to have a party and celebrate your life and know what your wishes are, know what you wanted, and everything's smooth, um, organized, laid out, defined in the will.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like the number one, or is just remove that conflict and give them more peace of mind, and they can grieve accordingly and mourn the loss, as opposed to then just creating conflict during a grieving time. So it's even heightened because you're already working through mourning a massive loss, and then you have to argue with the relatives who are left, right? That's one of the reasons. Just be kind to your beneficiaries and things like that, and make sure that your wishes are very clear. The nicest thing I ever saw was I went to a funeral, and I said to the widow, I said, "This is really lovely. It's so well organized. That must have been hard." And she said, "No, because he did everything before he passed. Even these sandwiches he picked out. I just have to be here." And that's beautiful. That is just
Mm,
the most wonderful thing you can do, is be like, don't ask them to pick the sandwiches.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Plan it out. Yeah, plan it out. Make it simple for them so that they can celebrate your life and mingle with all the people that come to celebrate your life and just chat, and it's easy, and they can mourn and 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 not have to worry about all of the details, and worry and not have to fight with siblings or children. Yeah, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. What's another real important reason why people should have a will?
It's just kind of hitting on the emotions here, because there's, in financial planning, we have like tax planning strategies, which can be very important. I can talk about those after. But my third reason is if you have minor children and you don't decide who they will go to, the courts will. And
Mm,
it's good luck. Like you have no decision. Your children are going to go where the courts decide. And that's not awesome. It's not necessarily a great setup. I talked to a divorced couple, and I said, or to the mom, and I said, "Well, is your will up to date?" She goes, "No, I'm at a crossroads because my ex-husband and I can't agree who will have our kids."
mm, mm-hmm. I see that.
That
I see
that
that
is,
often as well.
yeah, where are those kids gonna go then?
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
It's better to figure that out ahead of time for sure. Yeah, and it's hard in divorce because you might want them to go with your sister, and your partner might want them to go with their sister, and with divorce, it's a separation of families, so that's where it gets more complicated for sure. But that's where you have to put the best interests of your children first and consider, where will they have the most fun? Who are they closest with? Who will they enjoy being with? I mean, the chances of both of you dying at the same time are very slim,
mhm.
but it could happen. So why not just consider what your children want from there and do what's right from that place? Yeah, yeah. So that's really important. So number one, you need to plan a will, and you need to create a will. You need to draft a will so that you um, don't leave people hanging and questioning what's best for you, what you wanted, what your wishes are. Number two, so that it's clear where your children are going to live when and if both of you die. And number three is, it will leave the people left and still living, able to just enjoy the process, enjoy the funeral, have good times with your friends and family, not worry about what you wanted because it's all clear, laid out, and designed. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, it was that sort of reduce the conflict.
And number four, reduce the conflict.
Yeah.
So those are four good reasons why you should right now go take a look at your will or draft a will if you don't have one. It's important. Now, why don't people do this?
So a couple of reasons is one, it's a task, and our to-do lists are endless already. And like me before we popped on here, I run around putting the groceries in. I just, it's just another thing to do. And two, it costs a lot of money. It can. However, it's cheaper in the end having one set up. But I had this conversation recently with someone who hasn't done their will, single mom. And I said, if you do nothing today and tomorrow, write something down on a piece of paper. And even a piece of paper signed by you, maybe get a non-relative to sign it as well, get a friend to sign it, saying they were of sound mind when they wrote this, that can stand up. So not that I'm saying you should do that, but if you're not going to if you don't have a will and you have things on the line like minor children and assets that might be floundering around, write it down. It could be therapeutic as well. Online wills are starting to run through the systems now, because they're fairly new, and now people are passing that had them, and they're holding up okay. They're not that shabby. And if you have a pretty simple estate, like I got the house and I got this, like pretty simple stuff, go ahead and just pop one online. If it's if buying one from a lawyer is too expensive, then just grab an online one because it's cheaper. And bottom line, take a few days and handwrite one and sign it if you know you won't be getting to this anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I'm working with clients, I find that, like you mentioned, the overwhelm. There's so much to do. It's a change in your life that's just happening, and there's a lot to deal with. Um, but what I work on with them is procrastination, and I think how you do anything in life is how you do everything. So something that works really well for me is I have a running to-do list, and I take a look at that every night, and I take a look at it every morning. And every night I've pretty much decided the three things that I'm going to accomplish the next day. And if it turns into four things or five things, super. But I will accomplish those three things. Now, some tasks are larger than others. So, for example, putting a will together requires deciding whether you're going to do it yourself online or hiring a lawyer, gathering money to get it done, setting a date with the lawyer, um, gathering documentation necessary to create the will properly, deciding all of your considerations and what's important to you, creating your wish list. So there's a whole bunch of tasks that need to be done within that one larger task of create, draft a will. So what I do is I would have draft a will, create a will, make a will on my to-do list. And then I think about the one most and next powerful action that I can take that'll move me one step closer to actually getting that done. So, for example, it might be email my lawyer, set a date to meet, ask them what I need to have in order and prepared for a meeting. And that would be step one. And then that's complete. And, you'd be surprised at these little things that you can do every day that move the ball and move you closer to what you want. If you think a will is important and Sunny and I both agree that it is, then put that on your to-do list or create some kind of system that works for you to move the ball forward and to get things done. Procrastination is something that we're all guilty of from time to time, but you can really implement systems into your life that work and that help you to get stuff done. I mean, the only way to not procrastinate is to take action. And so, how are you going to take action? What works for you? How do you feel about that, Sunny? Like, what's your system? What do you do to get things done?
I absolutely have a system. So every morning I take this furry thing for a quick loop before I run off for the day. And that's when I set my intention for the day on that little walk we take in the morning. And I sit there and I think of what does my day look like? What are my things I'm going to get done today? And when I lose sight of that practice, it doesn't get done.
Mm,
I have to set my intention. If I accomplish anything today, it'll be this, this, this. And then
yeah.
and I feel so much better when I do that. And I often, like I say, lose sight of that and don't do that. And then nothing's getting accomplished. I'm like, what's changed? Why am I getting nothing done? Oh, I haven't been doing my intention setting.
So that's a system that works for you.
Mm.
So what Sunny and I are saying to you is, find something that works for you so you stop procrastinating in your life. I mean, a will is important. How are you going to get it done? And there's a whole bunch of things in your life that are important. How are you going to get them done? So my system is a list. 3 things I'm going to accomplish the next day. Sunny's system is a mental list by setting an intention, looking towards her day on her walk with her dog. What works for you? So find out what works for you, try a few things out, and the small stacking of doing over time, you will be amazed at what you are able to accomplish. So, what else? Wills and estate planning. Did we miss anything, Sunny?
There is something. I'm like, oh, we have to get to this.
Let's
I
get
I
to it.
ha I have to mention powers of attorney. Mm.
Mm,
We need to know who's or if you want the plug pulled. That's what it's at. And if you become incapacitated for some reason, um, like if you're in hospital or if your mental capacity diminishes, who's going to take your power of attorney for health and your power of attorney for money?
hmm
So who's going to take care of your banking? If you're on life support, do you want the full stop? And these are things you cannot leave up to your
mm.
beneficiaries, to your people. You can't leave them with that task.
And you need to assign the power of attorney for health and the executor of the estate, and then they are the final decision makers
yes. And
um, at the end of your life and after you die.
I've seen a couple of incidences now that have made this so painfully clear is like years ago there was that big bus in Winnipeg full of hockey
Mm-hmm.
players and these guys were all adults. They weren't minors anymore. So mom and dad can't determine their health care and they don't have powers of attorney in place on their health. Like it's an awful, tragic situation, but it made it quite clear that when your kid's not a minor anymore, you need to know, that has to be set up in that case as well too. Like who's going to talk to the doctor and make the decisions for you.
So, what you're talking about is not only creating a will for yourself, but making sure that your adult children have wills created for themselves as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, that's important. And like Sunny mentioned, you can decide to do some research on your own, Google how to create a will. You can get a lot of this stuff started and you can probably bring it to a lawyer mostly complete for a reasonable price. So you can do a lot of the work ahead of time and on your own, and then just make sure that it is all legal, I's dotted, T's crossed, and will stand up in, in court proceeding if needed, or will stand up after you die. Yeah. So I think that's it. Are we missing anything else, Sunny?
That was the important one I want to make sure we talked about.
Great. Great. All right. Well, we hope this has helped you to realize the importance of drafting a will, estate planning, gave you a couple tips on how to not procrastinate and get things done in your life. Find a system that works for you. Put this on your list or set an intention, write it down in your journal, whatever works for you. Find that system and make this a priority. Get it done. It's important. Great chatting with you again today, Sunny.
It's a good one, Wendy.
Have a great rest of your day, and thanks everyone for being here.